All right, if everybody can hear me here, I do welcome you to the class. I do apologize for getting it started so late. They actually did not tell me I was going to be taking this class and teaching you guys until this past Tuesday. And obviously, since the 8-week period was supposed to start on Monday, we got things started a little late. But as of right now, all the materials, or most of the materials that you'll need right now, are currently uploaded to eCampus. Okay. Let's see, I got 2 of you here. That's good. I'm going to try our best to get as much participation as possible because I do have to do a class census like immediately. So everybody has to participate one way or another in order to be counted on that. I'm going to go ahead and bring the slides up for this week. There we go. Now, here's the thing. Normally this class takes about 15 weeks to do. We're actually trying to compress it into 7. So what we're going to have to do here is kind of blitz through all of these slides in this session real quick. And then we'll talk over any questions anybody has about stuff. I will also get you guys your due dates for the projects and essays that you guys will be doing. I'll also answer any questions anybody has in regards to things like team projects, teamwork, and things like that. All right, so let's just go ahead and get started here with the class introduction. All right. And another thing I should let you know is if you've been on you obviously been on eCampus. If you're here, you'll notice that there is a link for YouTube or PowerPoint slides and YouTube lectures. I would strongly recommend doing the lectures because they'll go through this stuff in a more controlled pace than I can do in these sessions. These sessions only last an hour, so I gotta go fast. So bear with me here. All right. All right. So first page here, we're looking just at the syllabus. Everyone should have MindTap access by the end of next week. Okay, there's a lot of stuff that you have to do in MindTap, and that is a portion of your grade, a fairly significant portion of your grade. I believe it's like 10 or 15%, if I'm not mistaken. So you guys need to have your MindTap account set up. All you need to do is go to the MindTap link on eCampus, follow the link that's under that tab, and you will go right to the course. It should help you set up your account if you haven't set one up already, and it will enroll you in the class on MindTap. So required text for this class: Essentials of Writing, 10 Core Concepts, 2nd edition by Robert Yagelski. Do have ISBNs for them. They're both available through the Follett Campus Bookstore. The Follett editions also include a codes for 2-semester access to MindTap. So if you have not gotten your textbook yet, get it now and then go sign up for MindTap. There's an optional text for this, Tao of Writing, Imagine, Create, Flow by Ralph Wallstrom. I just use it because it's a good resource for avoiding writer's block. Materials you're going to need, you need the Spiral-Bound College Rule Notebook for use as a writing journal. You'll need a USB thumb drive, which is going to be a minimum of 4 gig because that seems to be the smallest anybody can get now. And you obviously need internet access. Those of you who are viewing me online, you probably have that access, so you shouldn't have an issue. Otherwise, you might have to go to like a public library. I don't think there are a lot of people on campus yet, but you should be able to get it through a library or a like coffee shops or anything like that. Usually have free Wi-Fi. Okay. Internet access is a must because this class is online. eCampus is going to be our primary means of communication during a semester. These sessions are going to be happening once weekly. It's going to be at this time every week, so Fridays at noon. Okay, I need you to attend today. Okay, thank you guys for being here, because that's how I'm going to certify the attendance for the course. Okay. Also, I'm going to be checking if people are posting stuff or clicking on slides or clicking on videos. All right. There are 6 writing assignments in this class, okay? There is the classical argument, okay, which is going to be a basic argument persuasive essay. There's an evaluative argument, okay, which is an argument where you're trying to persuade us that something is of a good quality. There's an anti-bibliography. This is not exactly an essay, but it is part of an essay. It is a cited page, okay? That's going to be a team project where the team is going to come together and you guys are each going to present a number of sources to the entire team. Each member of the team is then going to make their own anti-bibliography based on their own research question, okay? And there's a proposal argument, which is what the anti-bibliography leads into. The anti-bibliography is actually going to be your research for your proposal, okay? There is a weekly discussion board. This includes both weekly discussion topics as well as lecture exercises that I will give you in most weeks, okay, in most of the videos. And then there's the final exam, which is the timed writing assignment. I will get into that at a later time here, okay? Late work, I'll accept it. 1 week late for full grade. Later turn-in is going to be penalized 2% for each, for 4% honestly for each week that it's late. Okay. Penalized with 0% on the assignment. I'm very good at finding it, so please don't try it. Attendance is important. If you can come to these, that's great. If you can't, I will be posting them to the YouTube channel, so they'll be under a separate playlist. Okay. Let's see. Participation is important. You need to keep up with the discussion boards. You need to keep up with MindTap. Be courteous, polite, and open-minded to other viewpoints and discussions. We are trying to be open-minded here. We are trying to have an open forum. Okay. Lectures delivered through via YouTube weekly. One video lecture covers a week's worth of material for a 15 class. Okay. You will notice that there are multiple videos attached to each set of slides. Okay. Matter of fact, the current one that you're working with, that you're looking at right now, has 3 videos assigned with it. Okay. You need to view all 3 so that you have a good idea of what we're talking about. Okay. And also because, like I said, I do things a little slower in those videos than I can do in these sessions, because these sessions have to be fast. They're going to be linked alongside class slides in eCampus. So it'll be important that as every new video posts, you need to go view it. If you need to, you can also subscribe to YouTube and get notifications when new sessions are posted. Lecture sessions will also be collected in a playlist. These collaborate sessions will also be assembled on that same playlist. Okay, so if you miss one, you can come back for it and see if anybody asks a question that's important. Okay, writing journals. They're useful for collecting ideas and practicing writing. The more practice you get with writing, the better you will be, just like in sports or music. Now, there's no rules to journal entries, and the only rule is they have to be anything that constitutes an idea. Okay, something that you can build on, something that you can base writing on. Now, because of the online nature of the class, journals are going to be on the honor system, but I do still highly recommend keeping one. It will be helpful for you in the long run. All right. We have the Icebreaker assignment, which I did not post, okay? I will actually go ahead and post that after we're done here. But it's basically just getting to know your classmates, let them know you. Okay, I do have some topics you can talk over, your major, your goals, what interests you have outside of academics, where you're from, where you've lived in the past, and how much writing have you done in the past. I would focus mostly on recreational if you have experience writing outside of school settings. Okay, but if you've done some important academic stuff, let us know about that too. Okay. We're not doing a writing exercise for this. Don't worry about that. This is purely just to help you guys get to know each other. All right, so here is my profile. I actually go into detail on this in the lecture, so I'll go ahead and leave it at that. We have to get on with things. Okay. was an argument. We're not dealing with typical definition, which is what most people would think of as an argument. It's mainly just a fight. Okay. In the formal sense, an argument is a position taken by a writer or orator in a dispute, which they tend to prove using facts, logical reasoning, and refutation of the opposing viewpoint. Okay. Now, this class is all about argument, whereas 1301 was about research and more reporting. Okay. It was more informational in nature, more about research. This class is going to be about argument. This is going to be about persuasion. Okay. So the differences between argument and persuasion. Okay. Persuasion is a vital element of argument. There does not necessarily have to be an argument present for a work to be persuasive. So persuasive writing is simply trying to gain sympathy to your side. An argument is presenting a logical reason why the arguer is correct. Okay. There is an example that I show you in the lecture. It's 2 pieces of advertising. I would recommend that you take a look at that lecture or find it in the textbook when you get it, when you get your access to it. Okay. They're both involving water bottles. Okay. One of them is a Nestle ad trying to say that bottled water is a good thing for you. The other one is from a environmental group that says that bottled water creates pollution. Okay. The main difference between persuasive work and argumentative work is that an argument is intended to advance understanding of the topic, where all the persuasive work merely plays on the audience to convince them to think or feel a certain way. Okay, and that's what happens in those ads. The Nestle ad with the advertising water bottles being a good thing, it's not giving you a logical message. It's just making you feel good. Whereas the other one is giving you a logical message. It's giving you a researched message that they are trying to get to you. All right. All right. One of the most common forms of argument in our modern era of media is asserting a position. Okay, to better clarify where you stand on an issue. Now, there are some examples that ENGL gives of times when an argument's primary goal is to assert why action has to take place. This includes justifying a boycott of products produced by sweatshops, discussing legalization of same-sex marriage in a class setting, debating whether to invite a controversial speaker to campus, or public forum debates over whether to arm campus police. Okay, these are times when you want to have a logical argument. You want to put an idea out there and convince other people that, yes, you have the right plan of action. To better give you a grasp of these purposes, I'm going to do a brief exercise. This is our first lecture exercise for this week. Look at 3 social media platforms, scan the social media platforms in question, and locate examples of an argument being asserted by a poster. Does not have to be a well thought through argument. In fact, for purposes of this exercise, the less logical, the better. Now I want you to choose one of the arguments found and attempt to improve the argument. Okay? I want you to try to make the argument sound more academic in nature and less like an off-the-cuff social media posting. If you need to, you can expand on it. You try to say, okay, here's why this is right, and I'm going to add to the argument to make sure that it follows a logical flow. One main suggestion is to not do this with an argument you are vehemently against. Try to avoid patently offensive in nature arguments. Okay, this includes things like conspiracy theories. Okay, so that's the first one of your lecture exercises. Now, in a collegiate setting, argument is entirely about learning. You argue points in order to better understand the general knowledge which inform those arguments. Now, there are certain disciplines that entirely rely on argument for their writing content. In fact, fields like economics and social science are almost entirely argumentative. Okay, they are 100% based on logic and argument and reason. Argument then becomes a primary means of advancing knowledge. Okay, far from being an attempt to pick a fight, an argument is a way to learn. Okay, we're not just here to beat down the opposition. We're here to learn things the way they do and to grow from that. There are natural differences between disciplines when it comes to the content of the argument. The argumentative structure tends to remain consistent. So the structure you want to take with an argument should have a clear main point that is relevant to the academic discipline. Right? So Thesis argument must be easily discernible to the reader and should be entirely related to the subject in which the argument is being posed. So, clear main point. Make sure we know what you're arguing. Second, it must have appropriate support for claims. You must have reasoning claims that follows logically from your argument. You must also have evidence to back up your reasoning, which must be based on fact. Okay? You have to be able to present the facts that back up the reasons why you support that argument. The third thing, shared assumptions or premises as a basis for the main argument. So what this comes down to, you and your opponent in the argument must be able to agree on the base premises of the subject and be willing to acknowledge certain information as indisputable fact. You must also agree on what the definition of the limits of the argument are, the subject matter, and the credibility of factual sources. So you have to be in agreement with your opposition that these are the limits that we're going to work with. These are the parameters of this argument. Okay? To make an effective argument requires an examination of the issue close enough so that you understand it well enough. Okay? That requires research. You need to be well versed enough in the subject, knowledgeable enough with the subject that you can make a logical argument. Once your research is complete, there's 4 main tasks to perform in order to create a good argument. Okay? First, develop a main argument appropriate for the rhetorical situation. Okay? Come up with something that's appropriate for the audience, for the circumstances, for the time period, for the place. Make an appeal likely to be persuasive to your intended audience. What do they feel? What do they believe? How can you get through to them and make them believe you? Support for your claim with appropriate evidence and or reasoning. Okay? Make sure that you have that evidence and reasons that back up your side. Adopt the format and style appropriate to the rhetorical situation and medium. Okay, so whatever audience that you are trying to appeal to and whatever circumstances in which you're presenting your argument, your writing and your rhetoric has to match it. Right. Each of the steps individually, starting with developing a main argument. Yagelski gives an example of this process in his textbook. He shows a progression to the main argument going through 4 parts. So first off, what are you writing about? What's the topic? Okay. Second, what needs to be fixed or what questions are there about the topic? Where is the problem? Third, the position. How do you feel about the problem? Where do you stand? What do you believe is going to be the way to solve the problem? Following that is the main argument. What practical, actionable position can you take on the problem that aligns with your position? So what is your actual argument going to be on how we can fix this situation? All right, developing a main argument. This is going to be your second lecture exercise, okay? There's 3 exercises in the textbook to start thinking about an argument of your own, okay? This page number may not match because it's in my textbook, and my textbook is an abridged version, okay? But these are the 3 exercises in that particular spot. First, identify 3 issues that you feel strongly about and write a brief paragraph about each one explaining your position. Describe a main argument you might make supporting that position, okay? Or you can do option 2. Find 2 or 3 arguments about the same topic, preferably on different sides. Write a brief synopsis of each one, including a statement of the writer's main argument, then compare the arguments and look at how each writer takes a stance and develops their arguments. Okay, or you can do option 3. Think of 2 or 3 changes you would like to see at your campus or workplace. Then write a letter to your college president, principal, or boss to argue in favor of the changes, developing a main argument for each change. Okay. You only need to choose one of these options to do. Okay, but that's your next exercise. Next part, considering the rhetorical situation, okay? Think about what we did in Comp 1 with rhetorical situations. These apply equally to arguments. So first off, pre-existing knowledge about the topic or situation. What do they assume? What are their biases for or against your position, okay? You'll need to account for those. Second, what is the audience's interest or stake in the issue? What skin do they have in the game, okay? How does it directly affect the people that you're addressing? Third, what does your audience expect? On what side of the argument is your audience? Are you approaching them as an ally or an adversary? Your tone in the argument, that is to say your language choices, are going to be affected by your position in relation to them. Okay. One good question that people have about these types of arguments: do you have to win them? The quick answer to that is no, you don't. This type of argument is not the same as an everyday argument, which is more akin to a fight than a discussion. Remember that. Your argument does not necessarily have to be a winning argument, nor to be influential. The main idea is to advance the knowledge presented on the subject. Okay, if you can get people thinking about it, that's going to be all the better for you. Occasionally, the goal is to achieve common ground. Yagelski has a situation where arguments presented in a gun control argument can reach common ground by finding a goal shared by all the participants. In this case, it's reducing violent crime. Both sides want to achieve the same goal, but they just have different means of achieving it. And they're reaching a loggerheads with this gun control argument. Okay? So this is how sometimes common goals lead to non-shared arguments. Okay? All right, consider a rhetorical situation. There's 3 more exercises. It's going to be the third lecture exercise. Okay? First one, if you did number 1, the previous one, do this one. Look at the arguments you previously posed and identify an appropriate audience for each argument. Write a brief description of each receptive audience. So tell us who you think is going to be the right audience to receive those arguments. Or you can do number 2. Find a published argument you agree with on a topic you care about and think about what it would require to rewrite that argument for a different audience. Okay? So obviously for the exercise, I want you to try to change some things in that argument so that it appeals to the different audience you've thought of. Or you can do number 3. Think about writing about a controversial topic to an audience opposed to your position. Summarize your position on the topic, then summarize your opponent's position. And then finally, identify some arguments that may appeal to the opposing audience to find common ground. Okay. So that's lecture exercise number 3. All right, we're going to take a brief pause here for a question session. Let's give about 5 minutes here. If anybody has a question so far, you can use the raise hand button and I'll recognize you, let you speak. About 5 minutes here and then we'll continue with the rest of it. Alexa, I see your hand there. Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I was just making sure that so far we don't have anything that's been due. I don't want to get behind, but I know like...
No.
Okay.
Yeah, the only thing that I've assigned to you guys thus far is the lecture exercises in those in the slides and the videos, and the discussion board, which was just started on Wednesday. Okay, so you guys aren't behind.
Okay, and then one last question.
Okay.
With MindTap, in my previous English class, it was like go at your own pace and then everything's due by the end of the semester. Is it like this, or is there specific due dates?
Same way here. You can go at your own pace, but everything is due by the end of the semester. The only bummer here is that we have a short semester, so you don't have as long to do them, but you do take your own pace as much as you can.
Okay, cool. I'll start on those so I don't get behind. But all right, yes, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? All right, we're going to go ahead and move forward. All right. So, talk about making a persuasive appeal. Writers use persuasion to strengthen arguments. Classical arguments typically use 3 types of appeals. They are defined as ethos, pathos, or logos. Ethos is an appeal based on the character of the speaker. Pathos is appeal based to the emotions. Logos is appeals based on reason and evidence. Okay. So starting with ethos. Any argument claiming legitimacy by way of the person presenting it is making an appeal to ethos. So think about it this way. Your character as an individual influences this appeal. based on your accomplishments, position, angle of vision, subject matter, education, and any other personal influences which make you more qualified to present an opinion on the topic. Or, to put it this way, if you had the choice between talking to a modern historian about medieval feudal peasant life or an actual medieval feudal peasant, the peasant's actually going to be the better one to go on based with the ethos because they're actually living it. They can tell you what their reality is like. Okay? Now, there's two examples of credible arguments presented on the basis of ethos in ENGL. Okay, I do show these in the lecture. One is by Barbara Ehrenreich and the other is by David Brooks. Okay, I want you to read through these excerpts without looking at the author's credentials as presented in the text, and think about how much credibility the excerpts have without their ethical content. Do you feel that they are believable? Do you feel that they are worth your time if you don't know what the credentials are of the authors? Okay, and then also answer how much does the character of both Ehrenreich and Brooks add to the persuasiveness of their work? Okay, that's the next lecture exercise. Then we have pathos, appeals based on emotions. It's one of the riskiest types of persuasion because there's a potential for abuse of it. Okay, playing upon your audience emotions occasionally is okay. Playing is okay. Preying upon them in lieu of any kind of logical argument is not. Okay, there has to be some logic behind your argument more than my life will suck if you don't believe me. Okay. Human experience includes emotion. A persuasive argument can use this to the arguer's advantage by making the audience feel like they need to agree with the argument on a purely emotional level. Okay, in addition to the facts that you present. There's two more examples of this presented by Yagelski, writing samples from Jennifer Browdy de Hernandez and Kathleen Sebelius. So this is the next lecture exercise. I want you to read through those excerpts, talk about what emotions they evoke, what kind of things do they make you feel. Okay? And here's the third one, logos, appeals based in reason and fact. Now, this must be the basis for every well-reasoned argument. Okay? It's logic. The rational structure for an argument, the factual reasons why your argument is correct. This is entirely based in fact. Okay? Even if your argument relies mostly on emotional or ethical appeals, there has to be an element of logic to your argument. There has to be some facts there. Okay? There are two forms of logical appeal. All right? First is an inductive reasoning appeal, where a conclusion is drawn based upon factual evidence presented. The argument and conclusion in this case is based mostly on the facts you've researched and presented in favor of your argument. Okay? So there's an article called College is Still Worth It by Mark Izaguirre in the textbook that illustrates inductive reasoning. Okay? Then we have deductive reasoning. It begins with a premise and works to a conclusion which follows a logical path from the initial generalization. In this case, the premise is the basis for the argument, and the facts presented align with that premise, leading to the final conclusion. Okay? There's a basic form of this that has been employed by logicians for millennia. That is the syllogism. Condition A exists. I have condition B. Therefore, condition A involves condition B. It influences it some way or another. Okay? There's a sample of this in the textbook as well. Small Change, Why the Revolution Will Not Be Tweeted by Malcolm Gladwell. This is definitely going with deductive reasoning there. Okay, there's no exercises attached with these two. I just want you to look at them so that you understand the difference between the two different types of reasoning. All right, then we have making a persuasive appeal. This is exercise number 2 on page 187. Okay, there are 2 excerpts from argumentative essays that ask you to look for the different types of persuasive appeals in each. Okay, this is your next lecture exercise here. I want you to choose one of those excerpts. I want you to look for an individual type of appeal in your chosen excerpt. Okay, so you can look for ethos, you can look for pathos, or look for logos. Okay, whichever one you think you can find, then go through that particular excerpt and pick out the examples of that particular appeal. All right, structuring an argument. Most effective arguments have a structure that meets the needs of the rhetorical situation. That is purpose, audience, genre, or form. Writers generally adopt a format that presents the arguments clearly and persuasively to the audience based on some basic factors. Okay? Some of these include audience expectations. What type of persuasive method will be most effective based on how the audience thinks? So basically, what kind of audience are you working with, and what are they going to be receptive to? What kind of approach do you need to take? Conventions governing argument in a rhetorical situation. Ensure that you are using the generally accepted format and organization for your situation. If it's an academic paper, you're writing like an academic. If it's a trade publication, you're writing like a regular writer. Okay, whatever the circumstances are that you're writing into, you need to make sure that you're using the proper formats and the proper language. Okay. Then following that, the purpose of the argument. Are you serving your purpose? Is the purpose being served by how you're approaching the argument? Okay. Structure for a classical argument is typically in 6 parts. Okay. Starting with an introduction where you present the main argument in context. Okay. Follow that with a background statement. Present a narrative of events or a statement of facts to show the reason for the argument. Why are people disputing this? Third, you have proposition, statement of the writer's argument or position and summary of the key points. Okay, so this is going to be the start of arguing. Okay, you're presenting your position and why you believe that position. Next is going to be the proof, which is your reasons and evidence. Okay, why you feel that way, what reason you have to believe in that particular premise, and the facts that back that up. You have refutation, acknowledgement of the opposing viewpoint along with a rebuttal of their points or acceptance of shared facts. Okay, this is more important than you might think. And then conclusion, summary of the main points of the argument with a final appeal to the audience. Pretty much goes without. That's about good for a summation there. All right, so how do we approach this? Starting with an introduction. You should have a strong introduction to grab a reader's attention, especially if your argument is being written for an opposing argument. You need to grab them quick. Find an angle for the hook that will make the reader continue to read and hold their attention. These could be things like related anecdotes to the subject matter, interesting related facts, tell a story. A really good one is to ask a question, because that forces the reader to participate, okay, as opposed to just being an observer. You also want to try to challenge the reader's assumptions. That's another tactic you can take. The introduction is your first chance to force the reader to think about your argument from your perspective. Then background. Bring your audience up to speed in regards to your argument's background. Why are we having this dispute? Typically, this is presented as a narrative of the issue and the events surrounding the argument. So explore both sides of the argument and facts and events that are agreed to by both sides. Okay. Then explain why the issue is so important to those who argue on both sides. Okay. Give as much detail as possible within the constraints of the argument. Okay. So, what facts are there? Why is the issue so important? And we get to the proposition and the proof. This is the point where you present your core argument and the justification for it. So, at this point, you want to present your entire side. Okay. What it is that you are trying to get out there? What it is that you're trying to emphasize? What kind of point are you trying to make? Okay. Give your reasons for supporting the argument. Make a compelling argument by presenting reasons that stem logically from your experience and belief system. So it has to be something that is conceivably something you would have come up with, or a reason, or be a logical reason as to why you would support it. Okay? Give evidence which prove your reasons to be correct. Evidence is made up of irrefutable facts which both sides can agree to their factual nature. Okay? I need you to understand that all evidence should always support your reasons. You should never have reasons that are just out there because somebody says so, okay? As you get along with your research, if you locate evidence which either is irrelevant or unsupportive of your argument, set it aside, okay? Next part of this is refutation. So this is important. You must give time for the opposition, okay? Any fair argument will acknowledge the opposition if only for the purpose of refuting it, okay? I want you to emphasize that no one should ever argue with blinders on, okay? So briefly present the opposition argument and reasoning for their argument. Why is that the right, why do they believe they are on the right side, okay? Evidence is tricky here, okay? Problem is you have to acknowledge evidence which supports the opposition as fact, if it can be confirmed as fact, okay? Let me make it clear here. In this environment, alternative facts do not exist. Fact is fact, and an opponent which is who is gleefully willing to disregard reality is not worth arguing, okay? So if they have facts and they can be confirmed to be facts and they have been independently verified as facts, then you're going to have to acknowledge that they are using facts, okay? Refute the argument with your own evidence. Sometimes the evidence you set aside because it did not entirely support your side can be helpful, okay? Occasionally, actually, a refutation can use the opposing reasons and evidence to support the main argument. There is an example of it here. This is a YouTube video from a site called Glove and Boots. They did 2 separate videos, both sides of the argument of whether Johnny Depp should retire or not, okay? If you watch them carefully, they say 10 reasons why Johnny Depp should retire to 10 reasons Johnny Depp should not retire. They're the same 10 reasons. They're just framed in a different light, okay? Normally, I would give a lecture assignment on this one. I'm not giving it to you guys because you've got enough from the first 2 from the previous lecture assignments. I'm just going to let you have fun with that one, okay? Then you have the conclusion. Your conclusion is the last chance you have to make a lasting impression on your audience, okay? Here's the thing. It has to leave an impact and make your audience think. That's the important thing. You need to try to leave them with a parting shot that's going to make them think about your argument in a different light. Offer your answer to any previously asked questions and reiterate those questions to the audience, okay? That's one important part. Another thing to do is to summarize the argument, your argument. What have the point that you do is present a call to action to urge the audience to act, okay? Make that audience realize that it's within their power to make some change or to take whatever action you have argued for, okay? All appeals apply here. You can use Ethos, establish your credibility, and that of your argument shows you know what you're talking about. You can use Pathos, make the audience feel the way you do to make your argument more impactful. Leave them with an emotional parting shot. You can do Logos, give another logical interpretation of the issue and your argument, okay? These are all legitimate options you can use for your conclusion, okay? All right, so let's get to the first essay assignment, the classical argument, okay? The first major essay assignment is going to be to create a classical argument, okay? I want you to look for a interesting topic in current events, okay? That is to say something from the news, something you've heard about, something you've seen, okay? Anything like that, something that has preferably 2 sides to it. I cannot tell you how many people earlier in the full spring semester turned in it was supposed to be a classical argument and it turned out to be a research paper or some kind of exploratory essay, okay? That's not what I want here. I want an argument, okay? It has to take a side, okay? Real good suggestion for finding a topic is going to be look at news sites such as newspapers, news networks, and internet news aggregators like Yahoo News, okay? Find a single general current events topic that you can work on, okay? Read some information on the topic and choose an argument to make which aligns with your individual position on the topic. Focus on creating an argument to which there are agreeing and dissenting opinions. Again, it has to be something that can be argued. It can't be something that's accepted by fact as both sides, okay? I want you to focus on your persuasive techniques and the facts which will support your argument, okay? So as you're doing your research, as you're looking around, find stuff in your research, find facts that are going to support your reasons for supporting your argument. Well, base requirements for this should be 3 to 5 pages, double spaced, 11 to 12 point font. That would be Arial, Times New Roman, or Calibri are acceptable. It should be an MLA format that is going to be include a name block and include page numbers. A works cited will be required. It will be separate from the rest of the essay and does not count toward the page count. Okay. You will need to cite your sources within the essay MLA format for all citations and works cited page. Okay. As far as number of sources, I don't have any specifics as to what kinds of sources I want you to use. You can use whatever you can find, but you need to have a minimum number of sources. The minimum I'm going to ask for is 4. Okay. Classical argument must have a clear structure and thesis statement. Your argument and position must be clear in addition to the intended audience of your argument. As much as possible, your argument must avoid any and all logical fallacies. There is a website I've linked you to, Your Logical Fallacy Is, which is an overview of logical fallacies that you should avoid. Okay? Now, as far as the due date for this, okay? Again, we're working on an accelerated schedule here, but I'm going to give you some credit here because we did start this late. Okay, I'm going to give you guys 2 weeks to do this. Okay, so I believe the first due date probably should have been today, or should have been next Friday rather. I'm going to make it the following Friday. Okay, so next Friday is April the 3rd, then the following Friday is April 10th. Okay, April 10th is when I want this classical argument in. Okay. All right, so one other thing I need to address here, and that is teams, okay? You will need to create semester teams for the class, okay? There are 2 purposes for these teams. One is to act as a workshop group, okay? You're going to work with these students during the semester in order to most effectively critique each other's drafts and foster improvement, okay? So you need to work together. You need to share drafts, give each other feedback, all right? Later on in the semester, there is a team assignment. Okay, you will be working together. This is going to be the team that you're going to form for that assignment. Okay, I do need you guys to keep in touch with each other through the discussion boards or through email or chat. Okay, I do have a section on the discussion board specifically for teams. You can use that. You can post to that to forum teams. Or if you form teams offline, send me an email and let me know what your team name and your team membership is. And then I can post that to the discussion board so that you guys have your own dedicated thread. I'm about to tell you that. Okay. Now, team membership needs to be it can't be too small, it can't be too big. So it's going to be between 3 and 5 people per group. Okay. You're also going to need a team name for quick reference. Okay. Team name can be simple, as complex, as serious, or silly as you want it to be. It is mainly a way that I can identify you. That team is going to names will be in the discussion board under the team discussion sub-forum. Okay. Thread with your team name will be open for you to use for the entire semester. Use this for communication during the class. Okay. You also use this for workshopping. When we do the workshop sessions, which the first one will actually be most of next week. Okay. During workshop sessions, you're going to use the discussion board to pass drafts to each other. There is a function on the discussion board that allows you to attach files so that you can upload files and share them with your team. Okay. And through that discussion board, you're also going to give feedback on those essays. Okay. All right, that's a lot here. I'm going to take about 5 minutes of questions here, and then I will cut you guys loose. So if anybody has any questions, go ahead, raise your hand, and I will spot you. Alexa, I see you there. What's your question?
Is the best way to reach you email during the school day?
That'd be the best way to reach me.
Okay.
Just as long as it's not the weekend, I should be able to get back with you fairly quickly.
Alrighty. Thank you.
Yep. All right, folks. I'm going to go ahead and cut you guys loose here. We'll do another one of these sessions next week. We will talk over next week's slides and address any questions that we have. Any questions involving workshopping and any other concerns that people may have. So thanks for coming by, and we'll see you this week. In my shoes, walking